Hey guys, it's Rachel, and this is Thursday, and you've got me and you've got Carl this week. I'm outside just because I thought my video could have a change of scene, because I always do them in my room. So yeah, kind of spring is kind of in the air, which is really exciting and something I'm really looking forward to. So yeah, I just wanted to come out here and just kind of be in the sun a little bit, really. This week we have been looking at emotion regulation. I know I made a video on Monday which kind of covered why being emotionally regulated is important, and I think I touched on quite a lot of different issues that maybe have been covered as well in the week, and that maybe I'm gonna cross over on today. So there is probably going to be some overlap, which I guess is kind of expected, given that we're following a kind of course of, I'm going to say a course of treatment almost, with the DBT, and it all interlocks, and each week is linked to the other weeks, and each day we're covering like different aspects of things, so they all kind of lock together. But especially today, I'm going to look at what strategies you can use to become regulated when you're experiencing a high state of uncomfortable emotion. I don't know whether I'm kind of alone in this, but I certainly feel that before I stabilised, which has been down to my own recovery and efforts and medication and therapy and all the rest of it, experiencing a high state of any kind of emotion was kind of uncomfortable. So if something really positive was going on, that kind of high, that surreal feeling, adrenaline even could be as uncomfortable. And I'm still a little bit like that now. If I kind of go a little bit manic, and I'm just like, I've had like a really kind of stimulating night, and that's what can often cause this kind of, sorry, my computer just wobbled then, this high state of emotion can be when I've been out and I've been socialising, and the stimulus, my brain has just been stimulated by like conversation, seeing friends, and it all is very positive, but I can often come home and just be like, okay, and I need to like sit down and like take a deep breath and just kind of compose myself a little bit, because otherwise I kind of go a bit off there. So uncomfortable emotion doesn't just have to be negative emotion, and maybe for many of you watching it, it is just negative emotion that's uncomfortable. But and like I said, I don't know whether I'm alone in feeling that any kind of emotion can be incredibly difficult, especially when it's the extremes of highs and lows. So if I've sort of mentioned the positive sort of highs and what I tend to do with that, and medication helps me a lot as well. But uncomfortable emotion in the most common sense, I guess, is feelings of lowness, sadness, loss, fear, rejection, anger. What else? I don't know. I don't like to use the word kind of negative, because I don't think they are necessarily negative. They can produce negative behaviours, and when I say negative behaviours, I mean behaviours that don't really yes, they help you cope in that short term and in that moment, but long term are destructive. And so using can mean any, and I guess when people are kind of aroused, overstimulated, quite often we see anger, don't we, when we talk about people seeing red, and we see anger as being red. And there was a dissertation actually done when I was at university where she looked into the experience of anger, and she even had it bound in like a red book because of this sort of traditional sense of how we see anger. And anger can actually be incredibly productive if it's used in the right ways, and I think it's normal to feel angry, and it's an emotion certainly for me and within many people I know, with not just eating disorders, but feeling angry. You can feel guilty for feeling angry, you can feel guilty for feeling like that, pissed off, and so what can happen, I know we've covered this in videos before, is that feeling of anger, we can feel so bad about feeling that anger that then we feel guilt, and then we feel shame at feeling angry, and then we feel more guilt at the fact that we're feeling emotion, and we feel more shame because, you know, we don't think we should be feeling any emotion. It's just like this vicious circle, and we end up hurting ourselves, whether in an obvious sense, self-harming, starving, running, exercising, puking, binging, I don't know, drug, alcohol, whatever, because we're in this vicious cycle of what we perceive to be negative emotion. So when you are in this high state of uncomfortable emotion, what can I kind of advise you? I think if you are seeing a psychiatrist and you're on medication and you are experiencing a significant number of these uncomfortable states, that medication, PRN, which basically means, you know, you take it as you need it isn't one you need to take every day like your other medication, that's the way of helping calm you down. Something I've used all throughout my recovery. Even now I use medication if I'm in a high state of uncomfortable emotion or overstimulus in that way. What else? You need to maybe try and communicate, and that doesn't mean that you need to get on the phone and have a really long conversation with somebody. What it does mean is maybe you can have kind of like cue cards, or you can have text. Maybe text is easier, maybe writing an email is easier, maybe scribbling on paper is easier. Get yourself out, and I said this last week, didn't I? Get yourself out of the environment that you're in. If you're stuck in your room, don't allow yourself to stay stuck in those four walls. Go downstairs, go outside, go somewhere, do something, walk around the block. What else? It's kind of difficult. I think you have to allow yourself to feel it as well. And when I spent most of 2003 in crisis, which basically meant that 24/7 I was in this state of uncomfortable emotion, which led to incredibly destructive behaviours. And I think that if you're on your own, you need to maybe be with someone. If you feel you're at risk of hurting yourself, pick up the phone. I'm going to advise the Samaritans, because I'll tell you something, they're bloody brilliant, and in many ways they are better trained than the professionals. I spoke to a guy called Vince last week. Just pick up the phone now. I just burst into tears. Hadn't seen my therapist in like 4 weeks, and he was like, how about, we tell each other, who our names is, if you feel comfortable with that. And he just taught me out of this very kind of what could have been a very destructive time for me. And I wasn't going to hurt myself or anything. I was just incredibly frustrated, and I needed to just let that go. And that came through crying, which is happening all the freaking time in the moment. So let yourself cry, because I tell you what, I certainly am at the moment. I go into therapy, I sit down, burst into tears, which for somebody who's been with the same therapist for 5 years and has cried literally twice in that whole time, is pretty is a big deal. But I think that it makes me feel afterwards, I struggle, I do, I feel incredibly vulnerable, incredibly raw, but I've got out that uncomfortable emotion. I've verbalized it. God, sometimes I even not shout, but kind of, I get so frustrated that I'm like this, and I'm telling Jaya that I just know you just don't get it, Jaya, just don't get it. And she's like, well, just can't. Yeah, I do get it. And I'm like, no, you just don't. And she's like, no, Rachel, you have a choice, or whatever it is we're talking about. And I get like that, and I find it very, very difficult. And so when I sit with that, and maybe being in therapy, sorry, I'm just conscious of the time, being in therapy is maybe the place to start to let go of that high state of uncomfortable emotion, and in a safe place, and feel it, release it, walk out afterwards and be like, whew. And yes, you might be exhausted, you might go home and sleep for 2 hours, but you've got it out. And so you do need to get it out, but you need to find your own ways of getting that out, which isn't hurting yourself, which, and you will discover those yourself. But my biggest things are pick up the phone, pick up a text, send a text, pick up a phone, send a text, write an email, write on paper, get out the house, get out of the room you're in, get out of the 4 walls you're stuck in, go for a walk around the block, and make a phone call. do something that just allows you to process that. Take some medication, whatever it is. And if you're in that distress state and you're able to take some medication, maybe try and just be with yourself. If you're like this, you know, if you're like that, then it's not, you know, possible for you to sit down and put a favourite film on, a favourite whatever. You need to get yourself out, somehow release that, okay? And if that means going downstairs and crying on your best friend, your boyfriend, your mum, whoever, then you do that. And I'm going to go now, guys, because I think we're just out of time. So I'll see you next week, okay? Bye.